When you're offered a job, you have to answer, do you love it or do you need it? I will never, ever treat a young artist like that.
Was there someone who mentored you in your early career?
What I'm hoping is that the students will bring hope out there in the world. Do your art. Don't ask for permission. Just do it.
Well, first of all, it's such an honor to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. We are not in our usual place because today is a very special day. We are at George Brown College with the program coordinator of the theater program, Sumainer. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for asking me.
No, you are. I have heard really good things about you. You have such a long career. You're a director, a playwright. You are an educator. Like, you're a multi-talented person. And thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to come here. And I want to start from the beginning. Like, how did you first fall in love with theater?
Like, I hadn't even seen theater when I first fell in love with it. Like, I remember being like a little kid, and I just loved pretending, and getting my friends to pretend. And I would write plays with them, and we put them on, and I'd get really mad if they couldn't show up to rehearsal and, all that stuff. But I was like 6, and I didn't know that, I watched TV, but I didn't know that you could actually do that. And then a friend of our family said, yeah, you can be an actor. Like, people do that. I was like, what? My mind was blown. And then that was it. Like, there was no turning back. That was all I wanted to do. And so I was an actor for a long time, and I acted as many opportunities as I could get. And I was lucky because I grew up in Montreal, and they had this like thing called the Montreal Children's Theater. And I don't know if I'm supposed to look at the camera or not. Like, what do you want? But they had this thing called the Montreal Children's Theater. They had classes on Saturday. So I'd go to the classes. And the cool thing when I think about that now, like I went there for like from 10 to 14 or something, is we didn't just do children's things. Like, yes, we did children's theater, the big shows, but the scene study, we did Shakespeare, we did Shaw, like we did all these things. And I had no idea what those things were. But it was just like, okay, like learn the lines, do it. Like I just loved anything to do with being on stage. So I loved that.
Wow.
And then after that, I was in high school and I did shows. And then I went to theater school to study to be an actor.
Yeah, you went to the National Theater School,
Yeah,
right?
in Montreal, yeah.
Yeah. How did your early acting training like influence how you direct today?
Well, the big thing was I didn't have any clue that I was going to be a director at all. And so, but I used to be really fascinated with, because in those days, if you can imagine, it was in the 80s, it was before VCRs. It was before answering machines, like when we were at theater school. At one point, we didn't even have a telephone because I didn't pay the bill and they took it away. So I didn't even have a phone. So we were just a phone at home, nothing. But we just would go to class and, it was a really small class. I think that it started with 13 people in the class and then it went down to 7 in second and third year. And because they used to go across Canada and I think, and just, audition all across Canada. So it was a real thrill to get in. But the thing was, it was like, what I loved about it was for the first time in my life, I was with grown-ups who loved theater. And because all my life I'd been, with people my age. And then all of a sudden it was like I was the youngest one in my class. I was 17. Everyone was older than me and they all loved theater. I was like, this is great. But to be honest, like when I think of theater school, I think about having fun, living in Montreal, falling in love. Like those were the things that I loved, and as well as doing all the theater too. So it was like just kind of a magic time. But what I took away from it was that I would notice like how they would organize, like how they would schedule us and how they would make a perfect day, of like you'd do like voice and movement in the morning or whatever, and then you'd rehearse all afternoon and like those kind of things like are the sort of nerdy things that I would pay attention to that no one else would, and just how they organized the place. And then after that, it wasn't until after that I started directing, like way after, and only because we needed a director and there was no one to do it. So I said, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then I got nominated for a Dora for that. Yeah. So it was like, oh, maybe like I just love directing. So then I kind of morphed into directing because I didn't like, for my acting, I loved doing theater, but you have to do also like commercials and all those things. And I just hated the whole thing. I hated auditioning. I hated pretending I wanted something that I didn't actually want. And so this is what I wanted to say. The way it influenced me was sometimes as a young actor, you're not very well treated. And I remember thinking, I will never, ever treat a young artist like that. And even I remember one of my first interviews, they said, I was 17, but they said, yeah, you don't know anything about life. And I was like, oh, okay. I believe them, because they're the teachers. And then I looked back at my life, which was quite tumultuous. Like I had quite a life, my family was broken and, like all sorts of adventures and everything else. They had no right to tell me I hadn't lived at 17. I don't think anyone has the right to tell anyone they haven't lived. You can't tell a 4-year-old they haven't lived. They've lived a full 4 years. They've lived 17 years, 70 years, whatever. They've lived. How dare you say that I haven't lived and experienced anything? I thought it was such a missed opportunity on their end that they couldn't see my potential and say, okay, what have you done? Like, let's work with that. So I don't think it was like, I just remember that as being something I thought I'm never going to mistreat an actor or a younger artist, like never. So that in that way, that influenced me a lot.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
You have also directed many plays and adapted Alice in Wonderland, for example. How do you approach adapting familiar stories for today's audiences?
Well, Alice was a really interesting thing because the company who approached me, Bad Hats, they're actually former George Brown students. And Fiona Sauter, who is the artistic director of Bad Hats, and all the people there I've worked with as teacher, she approached me. And I directed her before at George Brown. And she said, do you want to do Alice in Wonderland? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't like Alice in Wonderland. No, I don't think so. But I started reading Alice in Wonderland. This was before the thing. And what I found about the actual original story was all she didn't seem in any way, I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but it's about this girl and she, goes down a rabbit hole and all she's doing is asking questions about etiquette and tea and clocks and all these things. And I'm like, you're falling down a rabbit hole. Is that not interesting to you? So I had a lot of questions going in. And so when I went to the initial, we have these like workshops, that was what I brought to it. I said, I have too many questions. And then as it turned out, it ended up all being about questions. I wouldn't say inspired by me, but I was just like, I'm not sure. So then the story of that adaptation is quite different than the original story. I mean, it's the same plot points and a whole bunch of things, but just taking it from a modern kid's point of view of asking questions. And then Fiona very, very smartly brought it into like education where you're not supposed to ask the questions. It's only about the answers. And so she kind of flipped it on its end and how kids are supposed to like know things. And it's like, but they don't. They want to know questions. So anyway, so blah, blah, blah. That's not the question you asked me. So I guess the answer is, it's like every time there's a new story, and if I'm invited to be a part of it, I'm like, okay, like what do I have to do with that story? And I'm pretty honest about maybe nothing. Like, so I always like tell younger people, like when you're offered a job, you have to answer, do you love it or do you need it? Because sometimes I don't love this show, but it's going to pay a lot of money, so I'll take it. But if it's not necessarily that, like, it's like, do you need it? Do you need it to fulfill some kind of artistic, like, I'm hungry to know that. It's got to answer at least one of those two things. So when I'm approached with invited to do something, I'm like, okay, like, what has that got to do with me and what can I offer it? And sometimes a story will have nothing. Like, I just feel like this is not my story at all. And I'll just sort of say kindly, no, thank you. It's not my thing and I don't want it.
Yeah. Okay. You did 3 Men in a Boat.
Yeah.
A production you've like revisited multiple times.
Yeah.
So what continues to speak to you?
3 Men in a Boat. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's based on a book from the early 1900s by a guy named Jerome K. Jerome. And it's famous around the world because it's these adventures, and each chapter is a little bit of an adventure of these three guys who decide that they're too stressed and they have to go on vacation. And so they decide that the best thing for them is they're going to rent a little boat and go up the Thames in England. So they're originally from London. So this story is world known because they are so ridiculous. It's like these very posh guys camping, and they make all these mistakes and everything. And to see the world through their eyes is just, it just speaks to a lot of people. It was even done in India at one point. The guys took the show to Mumbai, and people said that they would learn English reading that book because they were so ridiculous, and it was really fun to learn British through this ridiculous thing. So what happened was when I had read the book when I was a teenager, and then I brought it to Mark when we were in theater school. Mark is the playwright, Mark Brownell. He's also my husband. And I said, read this book. I think you'd do great. So he adapted it into a play. And originally he was going to be in it because he did it years ago. And then, so he wrote a draft a long time ago, but then we stopped, we had kids, everything happened. And then he actually was a teacher here at George Brown, and he met these three actors here at George Brown. And he said to me, I think those three guys could do it. So that's why we love George Brown students, just want to say. So he said, let's do it for a fringe show. So he wrote a draft, and we got together. As it turned out, one of the guys broke his foot right before we started rehearsing. So we actually had to get another student that I'd worked with at University of Toronto, Mississauga, Arundel, who I'd just worked with. So it was two George Brown guys and this other guy. And I realized I had no plans for how we were going to do it because they go down a river in a boat. And it's like, what do we do? Like, do we have baskets? Do we have oars? Like, how do we make the boat? How do we do it? And we ended up doing it with a chair, a stool. Is that it? A chair and a stool and a dog. So like this guy could be the dog, and that's all we had, and a little banjo. And so they did the whole story using that, and they did it. They made a boat. The way they would put like the stool in the front and the chair at the back, and make this boat, and they'd camp and they'd do all these things. It was really, really, successful insofar as you'd watch this story and see them go on all these adventures and rainstorms and boats sinking and everything else, and then at the end you go, how did we see that? But the audience could see everything because the way these guys were such astute actors, and the text was from the originals somewhat. Like, I mean, Mark adapted it, but it was very freaking like verbose, talk. But they often will call it it's called something spoken decor, spoken decoration. So if we say, here we are in this palace, and you go, okay. And I love the columns, and the audience sees the columns. So it's kind of like that, that they would just say, there's this one beautiful scene where they all go to sleep in the boat, and this one guy can't sleep, and he gets out, and he's standing there, and he's looking up at the stars, and you're just there, like in the audience, you're like, because he says, and the stars were out, and it's so beautiful, and Mark is my favorite writer. He's such a beautiful writer. So, because of that, it really spoke to people. There was a lot of music in it. The three of them were wonderful singers. So we had a composer take some songs like from those olden days and everything. And so consequently, it was just like this magic thing. And we had a whole bunch of versions of it. Like we had 1 hour, 1 hour 15, 1 hour, like 90 minutes. Like we had a whole bunch. We had a 2-act version because theaters would come to us and say, can you do it? But we need 2 acts. Yes, we can. So I was actually talking to one of the guys last week because those guys actually created part of Alice in Wonderland as well. And they're getting older. And I said, you could do 3 Men in a Boat until you're like 90. Like you could still do it as long as you can sit down and stand up. and you memorize your lines, you could still do it. So anyway, that's what 3 Minute Boat. So that's why there's so many different versions of it, and it's been done all over the world. And I would jump back in a second. Like, it's just such a really lovely place to be. I think that's the cool thing about theater too, is like when you go into a show and a rehearsal, you get to be in that world. Like, how fun is that? Like, I mean, that goes back to me like loving to pretend as a little kid, because often like here is boring, but wherever you create, you've created. Like, how it's cool, right?
Yeah. What's the origin of Pea Green Theater?
Oh, Pea Green. So Mark and I, we graduated from theater school. And there's this thing, I don't know if it's still like this, but at the time when you graduated, you get work. You just get work. People were like, who's graduating? They'd want to, but then it kind of like, like it stops, right? You go, I don't have any work. And it's hard. So Mark started writing. And that's when he said, I'm going to make my own work. So he and a friend of his, actually, I wasn't really a part of that, started making these plays. And they called it Pea Green because Mark, when he was young, they had a sailboat called the Pea Green. And so he said, we're going to call it Pea Green Productions. It's like, oh, okay. And then it became Pea Green Theater. But in the early days, I wasn't even a part of it. It was just Mark and his friend, and they would make plays. And then I started to get involved acting and directing in them. But that's where Pea Green is from. And originally it's from a story called The Owl and the Pussycat. I don't know if you know it. It's a famous poem. I'm shaking this. It's probably annoying. She won't. Yeah, so it's from The Owl and the Pussycat. They go off in a pea green boat, and that's his boat, is Pea Green.
How does creative partnership work when your like co-director is also your partner?
Do you know what? Like, we met working together because we were in the same class at theater school. I think the very first thing that we ever did, we were cast opposite each other. So I've worked with him since I was 17 and loved working with him. We always had fun, especially when they would say, like we had an Aikido class, and they said, go away and make a scene like using Aikido moves. So Mark and I and our other friend Evan in the class, I'd be like, yeah. So we go and we make it, and then we come back to the class to show it, and we show it, and then it turned out no one else did it. Like, everyone else was like too cool, or they just were like, oh yeah, no, we didn't do it. And it was like, but you get to make your own thing. Like, what are you crazy? You're not doing it. Like, you have an opportunity. Anyway, so we've always loved working together. As I said, he's my favorite playwright, and it just always makes sense. I always said, like, even if we got divorced, I'd still direct his plays.
What values guide the kind of stories Pea Green produces?
What values?
Yeah.
There's it's always entertaining. There's an innocence about the characters, which is not to say that they're stupid, but they have a certain approach to the world of, I don't know, like I'm going to try something and take a risk. Like in all of Mark's plays, he'll have this kind of person who just is like, I don't know, it like just kind of facing the world, and the world will often bash them, but there's always that sense of, I'm going to try anyway. And it's a very innocent place. Is this driving you cuckoo?
Oh, no worries at all.
Okay.
No worries. How do you balance being an educator and working artist?
I don't know. Next question.
Okay.
Like I don't know. I actually don't know. Like I do know that my favorite things are when I'm working with students and I can see like a light go off for them, or that they make something fun for the stage. And like, to my mind, that is being an artist. Like, of course, there's paperwork with life, and but they're kind enough to let me do this job. So I feel like my job is actually quite artistic, because I have to find teachers who I think will bring out the best in those students, or those kind of things. And while I don't actually get to just go hire or fire people. That's not who I do, but I do get to recommend, I really think that person would be good or whatever, to my boss, and they're very kind and they listen to me. And I'm not always right, but it's like you got to try. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
What has surprised you the most about teaching this generation of performers?
Something about what you just said hurt my heart. I'm surprised by. Look at me holding my heart. I'm surprised by how hard it is for the young people. It wasn't hard. When I was 20, it wasn't hard. Like, it was fun. There was a fun. We were poor, but it was fun. There was like a fun, and there was a community, and this was, again, before the internet, right? Like, and I just see now, I see so much people struggling with mental health issues, and it's very expensive to live here, and that's really hard. And I just see people just, I don't know, like it like just trying to accomplish things that I don't think that they need to focus on. It's like there are other things in the world, and so I see a lot of hardship in the young people, and that it breaks my heart. And so I try to bring a little bit of hope to them, but the hope is not, oh, don't worry, you'll get a job. Like, it's not about that. It's about what I'm hoping is that the students will bring hope out there in the world, because the world needs it so much. And I know that there's just so many sad people. The world is messed up, and I wish I could change it, and I can't. And that actually surprised me, that, oh, it's like, don't worry, I'll change the world. It's like, oh, no, you can't. Oh, I really wanted to. That's what I wanted to do. So, but what I hope I can do is, affect the quality of someone's day, and make them realize that it's not, that they can, there is a light, they can move forward a little bit, that, that there's just more possibility than we give ourselves credit for. I feel like, I was talking to somebody like recently about how we need to shift what's possible. And so consequently, I have to ask myself, okay, oh, I've got another day. It's like, okay, so how are you going to make it better? What are you going to do to make it better? And how can you make somebody in your world's life a little better, a little lighter, like just lighten up, So yeah, no, but it hurts me, because I know it's for real. Like, I don't think people are pretending that they're going through hard things. But for my money, if someone says, yeah, I've been, a small thing is like, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I'm like, look at that. So now what do? You've got that. Okay. So that's a thing. Skills, like, find the skill, find how you can still get through that, or any number of issues that people are having. And, it's just like, okay, look at that. Okay, that's what you know. I'm depressed. Okay, what are you going to do with it? Like, I just believe in action, and moving forward, and not giving into, well, there's no hope. It's like, well, who says? Like, that brings out a kind of a stubbornness, and an almost just you say there's no hope. I challenge you that you're not going to smile in 2 minutes.
What advice would you give to emerging artists?
Do your art. Don't ask for permission. Just do it. I always tell people, like, if you have an idea tugging at your sleeve, what happens if you follow it? It's so silly. Like I'll be in the middle of the night, thinking about a million things, and then this like little thing will tug at my sleeve. Have you thought about this? I'm like, no, I have to. I find a lot of those impulses right now are taken with being online. And I notice that about myself. Like, I'll have a curiosity about something. It's like, I'm going to look online, and then it's answered. And I actually yesterday said, okay, Sue, like, what if you don't just find out right away? If you actually have to work towards it. And do you really want to know that answer? Or are you just like wasting your time sitting on your phone, or like just Googling things? So I'm challenging myself as well as challenging other people. Like, what's tugging at your sleeve? I really want to try something that's only done with plants, and all the plants talk to each other. Do it. So do it. Make an animation. Everyone's got walking around with phones and fat cameras, and make some art right now. Make some art. Make a collage. Make something. Make a poem. I don't care. Yeah.
Well, you've mentored countless of students. What does being a mentor mean to you?
It's a privilege. If anyone asks me for something, or asks me to do something like this, I'm like, what? Me? No way. I'm very privileged to even be asked. Like, I'm always excited. Even when my daughter asks my advice, I'm like, really? Because I have like way too many opinions about everything. So yeah, no, it's just a privilege to be able to share and learn. Yeah.
Was there someone who mentored you in your early careers?
That's a great question. I learned from everybody I met, but there was no one who said, you know, can I be there for you? Nobody. But I would look at people and go, I like this about that person or this about that person. So I kind of created like that kind of path, but there was nobody. No, sadly.
How do you build trust with young artists, especially with those finding their voice? Kind of.
I try. I don't always, and sometimes it doesn't happen at all. And then people will come to me like 15 years later and say, "I remember that thing you said to me." And I go, "What?" And they'll tell me something that I have no recollection of, and they'll say that one thing changed my life. I'm like, I'm glad. I don't remember saying it, but and I think that happens to a lot of people. But as far as trust, like I would love it if people trusted me, but I also, you know, that's a bonus. It's not a given at all. Like, I guess I think if you come to the school, like you've kind of given a little bit of trust, but yeah, it's not. It's very precious.
Yeah.
Trust.
Has there been moments where students have taught you something?
Every day. I remember hearing a recipe once that said, if the teacher isn't the one in the room who's learning the most, then don't be a teacher. Like, a teacher should be always learning from the students, always learning, because you might go in and go, this always works, and then, oh, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? And then you realize it's because those people have their own experience, and that particular whatever action will work. So you have to constantly be, you know, bringing something new to it. So
Yeah.
no, it's every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the industry has changed a lot. And how do you prepare students for the realities of today's world?
Try to be as realistic as possible, which isn't always pleasant. Because in our 3-year program, like in the 3rd year, we have business of acting and stuff like that. And I think people have to be prepared to make their own work. I think they have to be prepared to what? To take no for an answer and be okay about it. Because and to learn how all the sides of it work. So in that way, I like to prepare people to go, you know, they didn't cast me for that thing. I'm a terrible actor. It's like, well, why don't you cast the thing? Who would you cast? Oh, I would cast that guy. It's like, yeah, you know, like not everybody's perfect for every part. And so when you realize that there's a bigger picture involved, and that each of the people, like in the casting sessions or all those kind of things, are also wanting to keep their job, like, you know, so you can kind of have more empathy to that bigger picture. But as far as preparing, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff now that I don't agree with, but it's a fact, like things like how many Instagram followers you have and all that garbage, because, you know, you've got two actors who are both wonderful, but you can't go with your gut. You have to go with the more, you know, like that part of the industry is just not where I'm at all. So luckily, but the fact is the students are going into that, so they have to be cognizant of that and understand that that's how stuff goes.
What's the biggest shift you have seen in the acting industry?
I don't know if it's a shift, because people always like pretty people, and you know, people will say, oh, that's not a thing anymore. It's like, it always will be a thing. So but the biggest shift is, it depends. Like for film and theater, people don't like to take risks on new ideas. So that's why you have, you know, Mission Impossible 25 or whatever. It's like nobody wants to take a risk on something new. And yet, when somebody new comes up with a new idea, the whole world is like, clump, they want to grab it from them. And so my feeling is, I remember being in a taxi once, and I was there were some students. I was saying bye to the students, and the cab driver, this was before Uber, he said, who are they? And I said, oh, these are it's theater students. And he said, what, they're going to go and work in theater and like be movie stars? I went, yeah. He said, as if. This is a cab driver. I just met him. And I said, okay, look, somebody has to be the movie star. Why not them? You know, like just like people have too many barriers put up. It's like, and it always makes me a little bit sad, stubborn when someone says, oh, no one will cast someone who looks like me. And it's like, well, not if you have that attitude. Like, be the best you can be, and make me want to see you, make me hungry to see what you have to say. And so we kind of tried to instill that in third years as well. Like, yeah.
Wow. How do you approach character work as a director?
Oh, I love characters. Like, I think we meet so many characters every day, and usually it's about a combination of character and situation. And so if you have a teacher, like I mean, this is great for auditions as well, right? You have a 3-line thing of a waiter or anything. You have a teacher who walks in the room and says, okay, everybody, we're ready to start. Like, who is that person? What was their day before they came in? Was it raining outside? You know, was it, did they just get in a car accident? Did their husband just leave them? Like, what happened to that person? We're all just people. So you look at a character and go, like, how did you get to where you are right now? And then develop from there. Like, what made you decide to wear that today? What did you have for breakfast? Like, all those kind of fun questions that you don't see in the audience, and yet you do when somebody has those things, because all of us have a point of view. And, you know, so characters have points of view too, and it's fun to get to pretend to be other people.
Yeah.
I think.
What's a principle from your acting training that you still believe in deeply?
Try it. Just try. Like, you know, I've got a bad idea. Cool. Try the bad idea. Do it. Show me the bad idea. Like, it's really important, because a lot of people just want to be perfect. I'm not going to show you till it's perfect. It's like, okay, I'm so bored right now. Like, we don't like characters who are perfect. Why on earth do we have to be perfect in our getting there? So the most interesting people I've seen in rehearsal ever are the ones who go in and go, I don't know. What about this? Blah. Okay, that was bad. What about this? And they just are trying, and you're watching them trying, and it's so fascinating. So I love that kind of, I guess it's a bravery just to try stuff. Who knows? It might suck. In fact, it might suck is something I say all the time. Like, let's try it. It might suck. And yeah, it does. But what if something after that doesn't? Or what if it doesn't suck? And or often, like, even in the Alice in Wonderland, we'll say, okay, let's do the bad children's theater version of it, this scene, and be really bad. Okay, cool. Now, like, sometimes you have to be really big and bad, and then you can go, there's something in there actually that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So it's always like looking at the interesting, looking at the challenging. And I don't mean challenging the way so many people's lives are challenging, which I utterly appreciate. But I just mean in terms of like rehearsing. People talk about being in a safe space rehearsing. It's like, it is a safe space. It can be challenging. It can be a little risky, because sometimes you look kind of stupid, but it's all for a good cause. And ultimately, like, what you're looking for is to have a little explosion in the heart of your audience. So going, yes, you spoke for me. I felt like that. You know, that's all you want. And I love it. Like even in our classes, like when, you know, we see something, I try to stop the world and say, okay, everybody, look at that. Like, just how somebody turned around. Wow. Did everybody see that? Did you see how they just went, wow. So to find the magic in all those things, because we're desperate for magic. And the youth today are desperate for magic in the amongst of all of these clouds of phones and all this stuff. So that's the dream, right? Like, it's just to find that magic.
Yeah. Looking back, what is the thing you are the proudest of?
I'm proud that I have been able to, for better or for worse, remain who I am. In my work, at home. Like, I try not to be somebody else. And I was terribly, terribly shy as a little kid. I didn't talk to anybody. And now I'm okay. I can talk, but so every now and again I'll just get overwhelmed with shyness, and I have to talk to myself and go, "What's happening? Why are you shy?" But when I took this job, when I was offered this job as coordinator, I said that in the interview. I said, I can do it if I can continue to be myself. And they were very kind and said, okay. So, I don't know if they're still happy with that, but I try to be myself with the students, with my kids, with my fellow teachers, just be myself, and try to admit if I don't know something, because sometimes I'll be in a meeting and I'm not kidding, like the language is so hard for me to understand. Uh, I've learned to say I really don't know what's happening right now, and they kind of look at me like, "I'm sure you don't." It's like, I don't, because there's a lot of I don't know, like business, academic speak, like these words that I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. So I'm learning now to just, like, I think because I'm older, I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, speak to me like a person, then we'll talk. So I don't even know what your question was. I can't even remember.
How do you balance like being a parent and an artist at the same time?
Oh, I have great kids. No, no, I do have great kids. But it's like they've come to, like, they grew up, in rehearsal halls and in classrooms, and so they understand, and they're both artists in their own way. Although my daughter professionally is more into psychology and working with children and stuff, but my son is a comedian and a writer, and like it's just to balance it all is to make sure that they have room to be who they are, and to let them know, like, I am there for them until I'm not. And if I can't be there, I'll say, you know what, you guys, I really have to just be quiet right now. But no, they're fabulous. Like, I just love talking to them. I love hearing their take on the world, and I don't, if I don't agree, I'll say I don't agree. But yeah, no, I'm just fascinated by who they are. They're wonderful people.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being here, for your time.
Hope it was okay.
Oh, it was such a pleasure to talk with you. So
Great.
thank you so much.
Yay.
Thank you.
Good.